Up with it again. He's on the ice with Iginla. Iginla. Crosby! Sidney Crosby! The golden goal!
Welcome back to the Leafs Cast for a special edition Frozen Four Nations Face-Off reaction video.
You're really close there.
Well, the college tournament's the Frozen Four.
Yeah.
And anyway, don't worry about it.
That's not what we're covering in this podcast.
The Four Nations, the roster has been announced. I think, I don't know, the Leafs Cast friggin' loves Team Canada. We did a Team Canada prediction podcast for who we thought would be on the team before the last Winter Olympics. And we've been starved of best on best international hockey for basically the last 10 years. And we now have it. It's actually going to happen. And we have a roster. And we're here to talk about it. So, Stephen Douglas joined by Tim and Ryan Allison, back in the building. How you guys feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's pretty fun. Like, you know, when the roster's coming out and seeing all the projection videos of who's going to be on the roster. And we're so used to, like, dealing with the same problems. Like, forever it was, we need a right-hand D, and now it's we need a third-line center. And it's just, like, the same names that we're kind of throwing out. Or, like, is it going to be Matthews and Marner, or is it Matthews and Nylander? And we're very accustomed to the same problems year after year. But now it's like, ooh, are we going to see McKinnon playing with Crosby? Like, it's just new things that we get to explore. And they're all good things. Well, some are good. Well, some are bad things. We'll get into it.
There were some picks about this Canada roster that got us so heated in the Facebook chat that we said, all right, we need to have an episode start venting.
That's right.
But. So rosters are announced last night, and as some backstory to the roster here is John Cooper, coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, is going to be the coach of this team, and obviously had his thumb on the scale of picking a handful of the players on this team. And it's we can't get over it. We just can't get over it. I feel like we should start by listing off the players named to the team, and then let's I guess we can go all the way up and down, and then we can just pick and choose. I know, Rye, you got a couple questions written down. Tim, feed me Team Canada's roster.
All right, so forwards. We have Sam Reinhart, Connor McDavid, Mitch Marner, Brad Marchand, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Brandon Hagel, Braden Point, Mark Stone. We'll see about Mark Stone if he's actually healthy. That's in prime long-term injured reserve season for Mark Stone. Then final for forwards, we have Seth Jarvis, Anthony Chiarelli, and Travis Konechny. Do you want to break it up and just talk about the forwards?
You kind of missed Simone Benoit there. I know you don't want him on the roster, Tim, but I think you got to say his name.
Wait, you mean Sam Bennett?
Oh, yeah, what did I say?
You said Simone Benoit.
I'm still on the Maple Leafs here. Yeah,
also
Sam Bennett.
qualifies for Team Canada.
Look, he's an extra. I just did the top 12.
Yeah, let's talk about forwards. So, initial reactions to that group.
I mean, the high-end talent is as good as it's ever been. We're going to see, like, McDavid, McKinnon, Marner. It's all good.
All three of them, first time they'll be, competing in a tournament like this, right? Like, obviously, Crosby, Marchand have played for Team Canada before. That's it, right? I don't believe Mark Stone definitely hasn't. Yeah, that's it. So, it's like a lot of guys who you assume are going to have that hunger to want to, like, show their stuff on the biggest stage. I mean, like, we're talking about guys that are going to go down as all-time great NHL players, and any all-time great NHL player, we were just talking about the 2002 team, right? Like, it's, what did you also do on the international stage? So, I feel great about it. But I have my concerns. I mean, if I can just rant, unless, Rye, you had something to say.
No, rant.
It's the decision to roll out what feels like 1.5 defensive lines in a tournament like this, but with a country that had the offensive firepower that you could that they could have rolled out, right? So Tim listed Brendan Hagel, Braden Point, and Mark Stone, and Anthony Cirelli, really. Braden Point's not necessarily a defensive guy. Bottom line, like, that is your... But they're pegging it as a potential checking line of, that's your potential checking line. And so it's just concerning to me where you left guys like Scheifele at home, you left John Tavares at home in favor of guys who like obviously have tons of offensive upside, are really good, incredible NHL players, but you're compared to some of these other countries, you're leaving this talent at home in favor of, I don't know, guys that you're not going to have out there in as many situations as you're thinking.
That you saying about leaving these guys at home reminded me of my all-time favorite Twitter quote, courtesy of Phil Kessel. After being left off the Olympic roster and one of the games they were getting next shell and they couldn't score, he just tweeted like, wondering if there'd be something more important I should be doing now than just sitting on my couch with my dog.
Yikes, roasted.
Gotta love Phil.
I completely agree, Steven. I think that, like, obviously everyone knows that Nathan MacKinnon is going to be on the Team Canada roster. Like, that, if anything, later on in our conversation here, we're going to talk about possible line combinations, and that's where it gets interesting, talking about guys like McKinnon and McDavid and Marner and like the guys who you knew were going to be on there. It's the guys who are really in that bottom six that it felt like you knew. Like, I almost was for sure, I knew that Scheifele was going to be on this Team Canada team. Like, I knew that he was, and somehow he's not for like role players, like for Bennett or Benoit, as I like to call him, or like even like connecting like Hagel. Like, I don't know, that's just John Cooper picking favorites out there or something. I don't know. It just seems like when you're building an NHL team, you have to take into consideration the salary cap. You can't be the Dodgers, right? You can't be the Yankees and just like go out and get everybody and have 20 Mitch Marners out there all making $14 million. Although if it's the Dodgers, they're all making $400 million, I guess. But it's like you need to balance your team and say, we're going to have some superstars. We're going to have some guys who don't get paid as much, but they can like hit and penalty kill and deliver. But when you're dealing with Team Canada and you're dealing with, best on best hockey or, America, it doesn't matter the country. You're dealing with any of these things. There's no salary cap. There's no restrictions here. You just pick the best players that you can, and they're going to fill it in. And that's not what they did. They picked some of the best players, and they looked at other players and said, yes, this guy is objectively better than this other guy, but we're going to pick him because he can be tough like Matthew Tkachuk and go toe-to-toe with him. Or he can, I don't know, kill a penalty or something. It just seems like we didn't get the best roster, and it feels like a mistake to me.
I mean, to be fair, like Brendan Hagel, he's having a pretty good season this year. So it's like, I think that's one of the reasons why it's like you have some surprising names like him. But I mean, Mark Scheifele also having a good year. But one thing I do think is that played a factor is this is a mid-season tournament. Mark Scheifele is made out of glass. The guy is injured all the time. So I'm sure, I mean, I don't know what kind of clout the team has, but like, if I was the Winnipeg Jets coach, I'd say you are not going to this tournament. This is like, we are in the window for the Jets. It's like, if they lose him, that's a huge part of their team. I mean, we mentioned as well for Tavares, he's also having like a bit of a career resurgence this year. But we're glad he's not on the roster as Leaf fans. I mean, we don't have, back in, what was it, 2014, he broke his leg at the Olympics. It's like, he almost single-handedly ending the NHL's participation in the tournament. But here's a guy that he's on the wrong side of 30, and like when faced with 2 weeks of extra rest, I'd take that, because I think we've debated this in the past, but if I had to trade like a deep Leafs playoff run versus a Team Canada 4 nations win, I'd probably take the Leafs.
We'll talk about that at the end. I didn't think about that, Tim, but that's a good note to end off on of which would we take.
All right, maybe not. Yeah, not a right to talk in the middle of our Canada podcast. Please stay tuned.
Well, to the Brandon Hagel though thing, right? Like I agree, he's a great player. Mark Stone is a great player, but I guess to play devil's advocate, like there is going to be penalties in this game, and like this this Team Canada team is going to take penalties. We're going to be on the penalty kill, and there's an argument to say like, Anthony Cirelli is a better penalty killer than trotting out. I don't know, like they wouldn't have put Scheifele on it, but I'm just saying like some of the guys that maybe would have put in there instead, right? Like, I suppose, right? But then, like we play Boston, like Brad Marchand penalty kills there, right?
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like our number 1-2 penalty killers are going to be like Marchand and Marner anyway. So you're talking about the second pair penalty killers at this point. Why are we trying to, like? I remember.
I don't think that's the case though. Because if that were the case, then there is no reason to have because if that's not the case, there is no reason then to have these guys on. Besides the fact that maybe it is just John Cooper's show. But I agree with you that like that's probably who should be out there, because you look at the USA, like they did a couple similar things, but it's like Austin Matthews kills penalties on the Maple Leafs sometimes too. So
it's not that hard.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like in the NHL you're trotting out different penalty kill guys because you can't play your best players 60 minutes a game, right? You have to have but in this, like, you could roll out 4 first lines and just go.
Yes.
And that feels like the Leafs are choosing to maybe not have the best roster on paper.
We're talking about Team Canada here, Steven.
Am I saying the Leafs? They do have a maple leaf.
We're both guilty.
I'm going to do it like 7 more times.
Well, what's annoying, Steven, is you're totally right. It feels like we're purposefully taking our foot off the gas with half of our lineup and saying we're going to shut down and play stingy hockey and we're going to win our games like 2-1, 1-0 with only, like, it feels like almost the Maple Leafs. It feels like we are going to have 2 lines that are going to produce a lot of offense, 2 lines that are built to stop the other teams from producing offense, and we're going to hope that our goalies are good enough, which, like, we haven't got to the goalies yet, but oh boy, so...
Well, I think it's like different, like, and maybe it's just a bit of rose-colored glasses in the past, but I seem to recall looking at Canada and looking at it and it's like, wow, we have 4 first lines. Actually, I looked it up. Like our fourth line in 2014 was Patrick Sharp, Matt Duchene, Rick Nash, and Marty St. Louis.
Jeez.
Like, I know, 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, like those guys in their primes were top line players.
Yeah, they were.
And Seth Jarvis, Anthony Cirelli, and Travis Konechny, like nothing against them. They're still great players. But if that's your top line, then your hockey team's not a contender.
I couldn't even tell you one thing about Seth Jarvis. I'm going to be honest with you here. I couldn't tell you a single thing about Seth Jarvis.
He's the one that stole Connor Bedard's spot. Seth Jarvis is 22.
When we're talking about, though, first line, I almost think of like when it's a Canada line, like Canada should be able to trot out all 4 lines should be comparable with the best line on any other team in the tournament.
Yes.
As far as talent goes. And it's just, they're making the choice to not be that right now. That's the concern. However, I mean, I know we're still going to get into the defense. Like, Canada has the best player in the entire tournament, bar none, and that's Connor McDavid. A lot of people, maybe not people on this podcast, but a lot of people on God's earth would say they have the second best player in the tournament in Nathan McKinnon.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Mitch Marner.
Well, right now Mitch Marner's creeping up on that Art Ross. So it's like Canada is absolutely stacked, and maybe that's like because Ryan, you were bringing up like we're trotting out 2 lines that we know is going to score and 2 lines that we know is going to stop the puck, right? And my concern, just because most of my life watching hockey, things haven't gone my way, is that like those top 2 lines aren't going to be able to score. You're going to need more than 2 lines that might be able to score because something bad's going to happen, and you just almost can't. It's really, when you like just think about it for more than 2 seconds, like there's no way that a line of Sam Reinhart and Connor McDavid and Mitch Marner does not score a goal every time they're out there. Mitch Marner had 3 assists in 5 minutes last night.
Well, you're right, Steve. Let's take now we could take a breath from the omissions and the surprises that were in the lineup, and just looking at like some possible line combinations here, you just listed off Reinhart, McDavid, and Marner is going to be the best line in the whole competition. Maybe America's top line could be comparable, but it's just going to be so fun to watch. Like, you've dreamed of it. I feel like the number of times I've thought, man, what if McDavid comes to Toronto? Like, it'd be McDavid and Marner just pairing up for some magic. It's going to be so fun to watch. And then you go the next line down, and it's probably going to be Crosby with McKinnon. It's been 10 years in the making. We've been waiting for Crosby and McKinnon. So it's very exciting for what we get to witness during this tournament and the top two lines for Canada.
I remember, in all those years of dreaming and hearing that, like, you could see McKinnon and McDavid playing together just because that's the two fastest guys on the team. Like, that's just the thing with McDavid is, like, even in the NHL, not everyone's been necessarily just so compatible playing with McDavid. And I don't know, Marner's compatible playing everywhere, so maybe it's less of like a Marner question as it is like a Sam Reinhart thing, but like maybe McKinnon moves up there and plays with him. I could see that, even though it is, two best buddies in Crosby and McKinnon playing together. But I don't know.
What's interesting is, like, I forget if it was 2014 or it was 2010, but for a while there, they were all about like the duos of trying to keep like teammates together when building lines and building rosters. They've kind of abandoned that. Like, I feel like we kind of just like the top player on every team is just on our roster, but it makes the line decisions that much harder, right? As far as like these guys all have no chemistry and are just relying on like. I mean, I think that's part of what makes Mitch Marner so valuable. Like, we've seen it with the Leafs. You stick him on any line, and all of a sudden that line is like, oh, what do you know? Marner makes everyone look better, and it works. But
I mean, that's true to an extent. Like, I imagine we're probably going to see Cirelli and Hagel probably play together, and I imagine we're also going to see Crosby and Marchand play together because they've played on the same line in a few of these tournaments together.
10 years ago.
Hey, it's not nothing. But to the point, Tim, that if we were still in that mindset, then Zach Hyman would have been on this team. Zach Hyman would have been on the team just for the purpose of he has that built-in chemistry with Connor McDavid. But Hyman's having a bit of a down season. They decided to go with who's hot instead of who's not.
Maybe they should have Hyman.
Well, and that's why
player
Bedard's not on the team too, though, right? Like, Bedard has. I would have loved to see Connor Bedard on this team. Like, that would have been so sick. And I know he wants to be there, but yeah, he's having a down year, and that is to the argument of like why Konechny is here and like why Sanheim is on this team on the back end. Like, it's guys who are having excellent seasons as well. But it's funny too, because like the tournament's not for another 2 months. Connor Bedard could score 35 goals. Okay, not 35.
Just
goals,
like Nick Robertson.
Yeah. Oh, shut up, Ryan. This is Team Canada talk only.
All right. I played around with the lines before coming on with you guys, trying to figure out how to put Nathan McKinnon as second line center and Sidney Crosby as third line center, because this is what I think the best, like, that's a 1-2-3 punch that no other team has remotely similar to. And then you got like Braden Point on the fourth line. That's unbelievable center depth. That's as good as center depth as Canada's ever had, right? Like, that'd be amazing. But I'm looking at these third and fourth lines, and I couldn't find a way to put Crosby on a third line that made sense. He'd be playing with like Stone and I don't know, Bennett or something. Like,
I'm still not convinced Stone will be at this tournament. I think they've just picked him because they can, but like whoever's I don't know, maybe Scheifele's first in the wings for an injury replacement, but
maybe. I mean, yeah, I guess I could only work with what I've got here, Tim. But for the roster that I see here, I do actually think that they're going to end up putting Crosby and McKinnon together and go all in on the top two lines. But I'd be very interested if they do end up switching out for Scheifele or something, or even get a Suzuki in there and make a more dangerous third line and spread those guys out. That'd be how I like to do it, but not with the current roster.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. But like to Ryan, your argument about like splitting them up, we highlighted the importance of this tournament, and it's cute playing Crosby and McKinnon together because they're both from Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia. They train together in the summers. It's a father-son, his favorite player growing up. But like this tournament is at certain points going to be too important to be cute, and you might need to split those guys up. So, but then it's crazy because like how does Team Canada's roster not have enough guys that you look at and be like, that dude could play with Crosby 100%, right? But I don't know. Like, yeah, you can't trot Mark Stone out there, and yeah, Tim's totally right. Mark Stone hasn't played for like a month. Like a literal month, I think, as of today, December 5th. So,
he is not hot right now.
Yeah. And the reality, too, is that, like, one player on this team will not be there because someone will get banged up, something will happen, they won't be able to play, and then, then we'll find out who. Did you guys know, by the way, they will be able to change they can make changes to this roster up till the day before the games start?
No, I didn't know that. What's the point of having to announce it now then?
Why are we potting?
Yeah.
Just to get hype. I mean, like this is the team.
They want to see what gets the most outrage for the snub. They say, okay, who does the Leafs cast say we should have in? Okay, now we.
All right.
Yeah,
now
the season will pause on February 9th, and then we will have 2 days of like this practice period for each team, and then the first day that like I think it's then the 12th or whatever. That is the day.
There's no way at
substitutions.
this point, though, like, you know, it's in the middle of that, I don't know, nothing zone where no games are happening. And they're like, sorry, Konechny, you're not on the team anymore. Instead, we're going to bring in this guy and just, like, ask for his plane ticket back. There's no way.
I'm actually, like, imagining now there's like rumors and stuff of like Marner has a couple rough games. It's like breaking Mitch Marner's spot on Team Canada is questionable now, right? Like might be in favor of, and then it's just like somebody else on the Leafs or I don't, you know what I mean?
No,
like,
it's Tampa. It's always Tampa.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yes.
Turns out Kucherov is Canadian citizenship. He has some sketchy papers, but they have a flag on them.
Sounds
All right.
Canadian. Okay.
All right.
Defenseman?
Defense?
Yeah. Let's get into defense. So, I mean, a couple of omissions here, but I think this is a big strength for Canada. Anytime you got Pietrangelo. Ooh, did Pietrangelo not play for Canada at the Olympics before?
We'll go through who the defense are first. So we have Devin Taves, Cale Makar, Josh Morrissey, Alex Pietrangelo, Travis Sanheim, Shea Theodore. Extras.
Colton Parayko.
That is an extra.
Well, Tim's not saying the extras, Rye.
I
You
know.
cut me off.
Tim doesn't even know
What do you
who
mean
the
I cut
extras
you off?
are.
It took like 3 to 5 business days.
It's just a list. There is no extras right now. There's 7 defensemen who got invited, and Tim's just picking one to be the extra.
Listen, guys, I'm gonna go back and cut this out for the thing. I was gonna say it. It was literally in my mouth, and you were all of a sudden cutting me off because I know how
excited.
concerned you are about Canada's 7th defenseman.
Very
I got
concerned,
excited.
Tim. I get excited about things.
All right, no Morgan Riley on this list. Mo got left at home.
Yeah, I don't think he was that close to getting on there, but his time has passed.
What? No, Riley is great.
It's I mean, not this season. Like he's great this season, but like I don't know if he's like Team Canada great this season. Although I'm not sure everybody on this defense core is Team Canada great. Like Taves is not Team Canada great this season to me and to what I'm reading, but he plays with Cale Makar. He will on this team, I'm sure. And in my eyes, Cale Makar is the best defenseman at this tournament. So if you're going to maximize him and maybe ride him that lineup at portions of this tournament, that's the move they're going to make. So I'm all right with it for that reason. Like if McCabe were Canadian, Jake McCabe, and they rolled out Chris Tanev and Jake McCabe at this tournament, even though those are not the best, like they're just playing so well together, it checks out. Cale Makar and Devon Taves are playing so well together, you're just going to go with it.
For the same thing with the forwards, that it seems like they were targeting, you know, the role players, like guys who could, like, we're going to bring this guy in just because he can do this one thing really well. And it's not a superstar talent thing, but that thing he does is valuable. I almost expected there to be a Chris Tanev on this roster because none of those guys penalty kill like he does or block shots like he does or just eat one or be big, be intimidating, have flowing hair like he does. Like he just does it all so well. And I almost expect him to be on there, but man, am I glad he's not. We need him so badly, so let him rest.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting for sure how I mean, I think on defense more than others, like you see in an NHL team, like the top pairing will play like 20 to 24 minutes a night. The bottom pairing is like 10 to 12 minutes a night. And all of these defensemen on the team are all like the number one guys in their team, and they're all used to playing 20 plus minutes a night. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to roll out. Like is it just you just ride Makar because he's gonna be that great, or is it do you go with more even because you can?
I feel like exception to Makar, all those other guys are like it's like Makar, and then a decent step back is just everybody else. So I almost would say let's ride Makar because am I excited to watch. Obviously you already get to see McKinnon and Makar play together, but on the ice at one time, we're going to be down a goal late in the game, and we're going to trot out McKinnon, McDavid, Marner, Crosby, Makar, and I don't know, Sam Bennett. And we're just going to win, and it's going to be great. It'll be so I play Makar. I play the heck out of Makar. Those other guys, just play them all 18 minutes and let them have some energy.
Are you sure, that much better than Colton Parayko? Because you seem to make me think that, he was a vital importance that
I remember,
he's a seventh defenseman.
I remember that tournament, the Stanley Cup final run that Pietrangelo went on with Vegas. I mean, that's almost the best I've ever seen a defenseman play, just ever.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful he can capture some of that magic. Hey, maybe he used to play with Parayko. Bring that back. We'll see. It's funny though because we talk about this D-core is great. I mean, everybody on the team's great, but the defense you're trotting out, you'd think then you don't need to have so many defensively responsible forwards being that their specialty. Right.
Well, there's a reason you need the defensively responsible forwards. And let me introduce you to the next position, the goaltenders. It's a rough spot for Canadian goaltending. But what's in it, there's apparently more Canadian goaltenders in the league than others, than any other country, but none at the high end. So we have Jordan Binnington, who's no longer the goaltender that won the Stanley Cup in 2019. Aiden Hill he's on Vegas. I'm pretty sure he's on Vegas. And then Sam Montembeault.
Also won Stanley Cup, Aiden Hill.
It's true.
Yeah, Montembeault's Montreal's goalie. That feels like another he's hot right now. He's basically the only good thing in Montreal. And so
where's Carey Price?
Yeah, that's right.
On LTIR.
Yeah, my only notes for the goaltenders here is wow, we suck. That's what I wrote. It's just so much worse. After all the rosters get announced, you go looking at the other team's goalies, and we have the worst between the four teams that are playing here in net, and we definitely don't have the worst of the other two positions. We arguably have the best forwards, so it's going to be interesting to see how it all balances out. But it is I'm going to say a significant disadvantage in goal here. I was trying to think of who I'd have as my number one, and I think I picked Hill just because he's been the best the most recently, 2 years ago, or this year he's fine as well. But it's tough to evaluate when you're on Vegas, right? So I don't know. It's you think that all we need is serviceable goaltending. As long as you don't have bad goaltending, that should be good enough. But these guys all of them are the kind of goalies who could give you a really good game here or there, but could also just not show up. And that, Hellebuck's going to show up every single game, assuming that's who the U.S. goalie is going to be. So we're not going to have the luxury of hoping for a bad goalie game from one of these other teams, but we're going to have to hope that for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see. I think all the other teams have a goaltender that could steal them a game. I don't think our goaltenders will be stealing us games, but Connor McDavid, Mitch Marner might. We'll see. Outscoring our problems.
So the goaltending, what's interesting about it to me, obviously every team's bringing 3, right? But the way this tournament is set up, especially if you're a gold hopeful like Canada is, or cup. Do you win a gold or a cup? What do you win?
I don't actually know.
Have they unveiled the trophy?
A ring, cash. Anyway, this isn't something where you can like drop a game and then really have a chance at winning the final. And so when I think about like past Team Canada teams where like, they roll out Brodeur, it doesn't go well, like you won't be able to have a game like that where it's either going to be a short leash or I don't know, no leash, right? Like you have to make the right call, because if you're Canada and you lose a game, especially to the US, but like I'm just going to assume they play Finland or Sweden first, right? Like you can't lose to Finland and be like, shoot, we had a rough goalie game from Binnington, we got to go to Hill here, because your chances at winning the tournament are pretty much done now. Mm-hmm. So that part of it's just interesting to me, right? Like they're going to bring 3, but the decision on who's the starter is so important, where every other country already knows who they're going to go with.
Well, you feel like they've probably already have an idea as they were like coming up with a roster. They have an idea of what they want their line combinations to be for forwards and their D pairs to be. I bet they have no idea who their starting goaltender is going to be at this point, right? Like the competition is not for a few months. They're just going to wait and they're going to see who's playing hot right now a few months from now, and then they're going to make the call.
Is it? I'm trying to maybe I don't know. Is it just a round robin and then the top 2 teams face off?
Yeah. So you'll play every other team once, and then and then that's basically the end of it. Like,
yeah,
it's just I think like 7 total games or something like that. So yeah, we'll probably play the U.S. final. So I bet
we'll see. So Canada plays on February the 12th. Start with Sweden, then February 15th USA, February 17th Finland, and then February the 20th is the championship game.
So 4 games.
Oh, okay. Yep. I am totally wrong then. So we would play the U.S. twice if we go to the finals with the U.S.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting.
Well, disregard what I said earlier
That's
about
crazy.
the goaltending.
That is so few games.
Yeah, it's definitely different than the Olympic schedule, right? Like it's I don't read the full paragraphs of anything. I just read the beginning of it. I'm like, got it.
All right, well, let's take a step back and look at this in a wider perspective. How are you feeling about Team Canada's chances in general? I think that like all of us would probably agree that Canada, US are like the 2 top dogs out of this competition. It's not like Sweden or Finland don't have a chance. They're both very good teams. But if it's not going to be us, it's probably going to be the US. So how do you feel about our chances at winning this thing?
The goaltending is probably the area I'm most nervous about, just because like in a head-to-head matchup, Connor Hellebuck is like he's great, right? Like we've seen him carry Winnipeg Jets for years. No shade towards Mark Scheifele and that team, but like Hellebuck is what makes the engine run there. And we just know like Austin Matthews, a guy can win you games. Like they are certainly no slouch up front. I just looking at the roster, like Matthew Tkachuk, the worst. We need Sam Bennett to suplex that guy. And then defense, like very, very formidable as well. And so I think am I on repeat from the Leafs thing? It's like the best players have to be your best players, and they're going to be the ones to get you through.
Well, they are, from everything I determined, like from what everyone else is saying, a lot of people at least, and obviously I live in the U.S., people think the U.S. is the favorite here.
I think they are the favorite.
I definitely don't discount the other countries. Finland, I watch a lot of international hockey. I watch the World Juniors every year. Like and even I watched the other Olympic tournaments, that didn't have like the best on best in there. Finland has a way of playing like their country's survival depends on their performance in these tournaments. And I think there's a difference, even though these guys are like grown men, like been playing in the league a while, like those smaller countries like Finland and Sweden, these guys, they all know each other just that much more. Like they all played together on each other's teams and, things like that. It's a little different than Canada with, Western Hockey League and the Q and like, so the chem, these guys seem to have the chem a lot better than like I'm presuming that Canada will. So I don't discount them for that, but I'm less concerned about the U.S. than Canada. I am Canadian. I am a homer. But when you write on paper that Canada has the two best forwards in the tournament and the best defenseman in the tournament, that's a really big advantage. The best center depth in the tournament. That's it. I recognize that, like, I think the U.S. is great. Austin Matthews and Jack Eichel is pretty much just as good as Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby down the middle, but it's not as good. Like, it's pretty much, but it's not it.
I would say, like, USA may have a better roster on paper than Canada, but I'll be quite disappointed if anything less than a championship for Canada, I would say. Like,
Of
that's
course
the
you're going
bar.
to be disappointed, Tim. I mean, we have nothing to live for. We're Maple Leafs fans. Like, this is the only thing that we have to give us some hope that we'll have happiness in our lives.
Ryan, this is the year. Of note, regardless of who comes away with the Four Nations face-off, a Maple Leaf will be on the winning team.
That's good.
Just squeaked in there for Finland with Hakanpää making it in as an extra.
I don't know if you'll be
had
playing.
surgery like this last week, by the way.
Yeah,
Talking
he
about
did.
guys that might not make the tournament, like Mark Stone.
I would say, so if I could give my opinion of how I think that will fare in this thing, I agree with actually everything that you said, Stephen. I think that it is a big advantage. We have, I think, probably the best two players in it, in McDavid and McKinnon, and I would think far and away the best defenseman as well in Cale Makar, and that is a big advantage. I think where our advantage was over a team like the U.S. is that we had the forward depth. I think, Tim, you kind of went through it, but like the U.S. has some elite top lines as well. Like that, they can go toe to toe with anyone. Like definitely with our top two lines, no problem. And we had, even in years in Olympic performances past, like what made Canada special, we talked about already, is we had like 4 first lines out there. Our fourth line was as good as anyone else's first line. And I'm have USA's roster here pulled up, and their third and fourth line, I'm looking at, it's just like, oh, it's not world beaters out there. But then I go back to our third and fourth line, it's like, oh, nor is ours. We have, like, both us and US have 2 amazing first 2 lines and 2 okay third and fourth lines. The defense is relatively similar. If anything, the U.S. I'd give the edge. And so then it just comes down to goalies. And I go back to that 2010 where I just remember Miller was unbelievable for the U.S. And we had, on paper, a way better team than the U.S., I remember. And it didn't matter because Miller just shut the door and he brought them all the way to overtime. And it was that close before, you guys know what happened. But I just worry that we're gonna have this amazing fun team, Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid, and it's just like we're just gonna hit some hot goaltender, and we're just gonna like lose to Sweden and US in the round robin and not even get to make it to the final or something.
Ryan, that's why we have Sam Bennett to hit the hot goaltender.
That's right.
I hit the goalie. But like, it's. Do you really, Ryan? Do you really think it's possible that McDavid and McKinnon and Marner don't have like a good offensive tournament? Just feels different.
Well, it's 4 games. Like, right, we're not looking at like an 82 game season where it's just like those guys are gonna come out. Like in 4 games, anything can happen, and it could just be that the mojo is just like with another team. Like I don't know. It's just it's. Yes, it could happen, Steven, but like it also could just not, right? Like,
I disagree. I think that like it might not be easy, but there's just no way I think that forward group doesn't break through and just score enough to get in some goals on somebody like Hellebuck or.
But couldn't you say the same thing about like Austin Matthews is out there centering the top line? We get to watch that guy 89 times a season.
Nice.
And he scores, like, the goals he's just scored this week are unbelievable. And, like, how could you not say the same thing about them, that their offense is going to break through? They're shooting against Binnington, Stephen. Binnington. Like, it's concerning, to say the least.
It is. It is. I just, I don't know. I have faith in I have faith in Canada.
All right.
I mean, it is close. And again, most people not on this podcast will say that the U.S. is the favorite. And a lot of that is because of the goalies. And it's going to be so hard to root against Austin Matthews. It's going to be very weird. I take it back. It probably won't be hard. If it's Canada versus the U.S., it won't be hard.
You're going to see him skating on the same line as Matthew Tkachuk, and you're going to be like, I hate those guys out there.
I mean, there's a lot of Stanley Cup pedigree on Team Canada. So these guys know how to win. They know what it takes. We'll see.
All right,
it's gonna be good though.
Let's circle back to Tim's question of if you were to trade the Maple Leafs, like to me the over-under is making it out of the second round. Like I think for me, I would choose a Maple Leafs make it to round 3 at least, rather than Team Canada doing well. I'd take Team Canada losing all their games if it meant Toronto made it to the third round. The second round only, I might pick Canada. I think that's where my line is.
Only because last time we were in the second round, it sucked.
Yeah.
5 goals in 4 games. Not that anyone here is scarred.
This is an impossible question because if you ask me now, like, I'll say no. I want the Leafs to win, right? But if I can't pick against the Leafs now, right? But if Team Canada won this whole thing, and then in May we're sad because the Leafs lost in round 1, but then God whispered in my ear like it was so that Canada could win, I'd be like, okay, I understand why you did this to me.
I would not understand. I would listen. If Canada loses all their games, like they lose to Sweden in game 1, they lose to US in game 2, they lose to Finland in game 3, and they're just swept, I'm going to be like, that was disappointing. And then I'm just going to move on with my life. But when the Maple Leafs get eliminated in round 1, it affects me in my core. Like I'm angry for at least a couple weeks, and I can't survive. And to me, it's the Maple Leafs. I take it back. I'll trade all of Canada's success for the Maple Leafs.
But we love Canada.
So, sometimes it's the guys, from someone who, again, watches like all the World Juniors, and it's the guys on Canada that you will root for, right? And we're obviously, like, even though we're Leafs fans, we love Connor McDavid, and we love Sidney Crosby, and we love Mitch Marner, and like
we hate Sam Bennett.
I'm just saying, like, some of the fun I've had watching, Connor Bedard put up 23 points in 7 games, and like the golden goal with Sid. Like these are our boys. And it's just like, I don't know. A lot of my favorite hockey memories of my whole life have been guys in Team Canada sweaters.
Steven, that's just because you've been robbed as a Leafs fan.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, wait.
Like, that's not a pro to Canada. That's just, what a sad life.
No, I would 100% like rather take the Leafs going deep and winning a cup than this at all. Because, like, this is still, it's just the 4 nations. It's not the Olympics. Just the 4 nations.
What? So you're not going to beat Team Germany? So it cheapens it? Guys,
But,
the
like,
good
the
news
Czechs
is,
and like
powers
Russia
of
is obviously
karma
a force, and
not-
Germany's not nothing. I don't know what's going on over there, but they're making hockey players now.
They are?
guys, we could have the Leafs on a playoff run and Team Canada do well.
Tim, stop.
It could happen.
Those good things don't happen to us.
Can I call out Ontario though? I mean, just in my opinion, not enough Ontario. Coming from 3 Ontario boys, not enough Ontario on Team Canada. All we've got: Alex Pietrangelo, Mitch Marner, Connor McDavid, Travis Konechny, Anthony Cirelli, Jordan Binnington, Ryan's favorite, Sam Bennett. That's not enough.
That's a lot of players, Steven. That's half the roster.
It's a little bit, just in my opinion, a touch too much Nova Scotia. Like,
all right.
Sam Bennett's from East Gwillimbury,
I don't even
Ontario.
think that
What is
counts as
that?
Canada. Yeah, that's dumb. I don't like it.
What
Get him
is
off my team.
that?
All
What
right.
is that? We'll get
All
to
right.
it later.
Well, this has been a fun no Leafs. Well, we had a little bit of Leafs talk episode. This episode.
We couldn't help
but
ourselves.
So
Yeah.
fun.
Tune in February. We'll see if we pod after every game. We'll see how interesting these games are. We'll pod after the Canada-US game.
I'll be locked in. I'll be potting. I don't know. Try to keep me off the mic.
You're just gonna have Steven ranting for 10 minutes after every game.
Good luck keeping me to 10 minutes. Give me a break.
All right.
Good night.
All right, wrap it up. Go Canada.